Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to today's Friday reflection. You all Jummah Mubarak as well. Today I would like to read to you from this wonderful book, 50 Days, the Divine Disclosures During a Holy Sufi Seclusion by Mawlana Shaykh Hisham Kabbani. This was published in 2010. And I'm going to read from chapter 8, which is the Ark of Noah's, Ark of the Noahs, which is on page 139 of the book. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Just as the children of Israel found tranquility in the Ark of the Covenant, so too can the believer find tranquility in himself. This tranquility becomes a bridge connecting the body and the heart. The heart is the ark of the self, and in it the seeker can find this peace. However, the heart must first be cleaned. The heart of a true knower, the true Gnostic, contains Allah's knowledge and tranquility, and peace emanates from it. Through this peace and tranquility, he is able to understand the level of Iman and the level of Ihsan. So Iman, the level of belief or faith, and Ihsan, which is the level of Gnosis. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that belief in his angels is part of Iman. It means that just as the angels are bearing the Ark of the Covenant, so will the angels carry you to the amana, the trusts that Allah gave you on the day of promises. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that he showed his trust to the heavens and the earth and gave it to them to carry. But they said it was too difficult a burden to bear. So human beings took it and carried it. They took it as a gift that they must follow. They must follow his principles or be judged. You cannot take a trust and then spend it in your own way. You cannot squander it on worldly desires. And this goes for any trust. You know, if you have a charity, like a waqf, a traditional trust with a mosque, or a modern charity, or any kind of foundation like that, that is a trust. You have to take care of it. The money or the resources or assets that belong to that trust are not yours. They do not belong to you. They belong to all of the people who've donated it. And they've entrusted it to you to use in the ways which they've entrusted it to you for. So if, for instance, you've been entrusted with some money and some assets that are supposed to be spent in order to help rebuild Gaza and help the people who have lost their homes and their lives there, and not lives, I mean, like their businesses and things. Some of them have lost their lives, but some of them, they've lost their businesses, they've lost their homes, they need to rebuild. If you've been given money and resources to help them rebuild their lives, that is the purpose for that is entrusted to you, and it's a trust that you have to discharge on behalf of those people and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whether it's the people of Gaza or people somewhere else in Morocco or somewhere who have suffered as a result of an earthquake, or whether that money is for education and sending people to college and university, or building colleges and universities, or whether that is for building a mosque or a church or something, whatever. That money has a certain purpose. And if you are in charge, if you're entrusted with that, it is a trust that you have. You have a responsibility to make sure that that money is and those resources are used in the way which they are supposed to be used. Otherwise, you're the wrong person for the job, and you shouldn't be entrusted with any of that. In a similar way, in the spiritual realm, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted people, human beings, with certain gifts, but there's a trust. And we're not supposed to waste those gifts. We're not supposed to squander them or use them selfishly. As Mawlana Shaykh Hisham says here, you are responsible for it, and you must give it back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told human beings that they can only spend this trust in the way that He ordered them to follow. He outlined the conditions and the principles to which we must adhere. And my brothers and sisters, do any of us really adhere to those principles? Do any of us really adhere to those conditions? And myself included. In these days, in these times, which of us is good? Which of us is doing everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala requested of us to do and told us that is our responsibilities when He gives us this life and we are born into this world, and then reminded us of these responsibilities through so many prophets and saints. I was talking to a Hindu person earlier, and they were asking me, do you see our religion as an equally valid path? And I don't think they liked that. I didn't give them exactly a straight answer, but I said that I see validity in the Upanishads, in the Ramayana, in the Mahabharata, in their sacred texts. I see validity in this. I see validity in the way of Dharma. And I believe this also came from prophets that were sent to the Indian people. And yes, I do believe if a Hindu person sincerely follows that guidance, then they will actually be rightly guided, because what they will end up following is very, very similar to what we're taught within Islam. And yes, I do see that as valid. But I said to him, Hinduism means many different things. Just like today, there are many different Muslim groups. And I recognize your right to be able to criticize that. And that means equally, I have a right that I should be able to constructively criticize a Hindu group or a Christian group, or, I can't say I equally recognize the validity of every single Hindu group or every single Christian group or every single Jewish group, because some of them are nuts. And it's true also that some Muslim groups are just as nuts. And if someone criticizes that, then, why should I be offended? And equally, they shouldn't either. We need to have constructive conversations on some of these things. But at the same time, I recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent 124,000 prophets to humanity. Allah tells us in the Holy Quran that He sent prophets to every nation. So, of course, that would include the Indian nations. That would include nations all around the world. And anybody who's read other sacred scriptures, anybody who's read other sacred scriptures, anybody who's read other holy books, they will see this for themselves. The same teachings are found in all of these sacred books. Why? Because they come from the same source. The modern religions may vary quite significantly in some ways, but the books themselves, they ultimately are inspired from the same divine source. And it's actually part of Islam to believe and recognize that. We're told about the Torah. We're told about the book of Abraham, which no longer exists as far as we know, unless something is discovered. And we're told about the Injil, the gospel of Jesus. And we have to believe in those, just as we believe in the Quran, because we're told about them in the Quran. But they're not the only books. There would have been other books that were sent to other prophets. And other religions ended up being built around them. And sometimes those religions, after thousands of years, can differ quite considerably from the initial inspiration that came to those prophets. But it doesn't mean that there isn't validity in those paths. We have to have respect for everybody. But returning back to what Mawlana Shaykh Hisham is saying here, that Allah outlined the conditions and principles to which we must adhere. And which of us is adhering to those principles? Which of us is adhering to those guidelines? The ark that Allah gave to the people of Shmuel was a reminder to them of this trust. That is why the ark of Moses is called the Ark of the Covenant. Allah mentions the covenant when he says, among the believers are men who have been true to their covenant with Allah. Some of them have completed their vow to the extreme, and some still wait, but they have never changed their determination in the least. Surah Al-Azab, which is Surah 33, Ayah 23. The awliya Allah, the friends of God, also known as saints, are the inheritors of this ark. They are small in number, but they have great power. There are only 124,000 of them, but they can do more than 6 billion because they have that ark. They follow the principles and conditions of that trust. Today, there are many people who claim superiority in knowledge, but they are like an empty drum that makes a lot of noise, but it contains nothing but air. The Gnostic, Arif Billahi, is not a drum. When you hit him, he does not give a sound. That is because his heart is full. When you drum on him, he gives you meditation. He gives you what you need to hear. Sometimes it is very difficult on the ego to accept. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave true superiority to the Gnostics. He raised them because they kept their covenant, their trust. Men who have been true to their covenant with Allah. The men Allah mentioned here are the Gnostics, the knowers, who kept the promise to Allah that they made on the day of promises, i.e., before we were born into this world. This verse reminds us that Allah took a promise from each of us on that day. The Gnostics kept their promise. They kept their covenant with Allah. Some passed away. They followed the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and passed to akhirah, to hereafter. The station of Ihsan is maqam al-uns, the station of intimacy with the divine presence. That is why the Prophet ﷺ said, the time that I am most happy is when I am in prayer, because there I feel the intimacy of being between the hands of my Lord. The maqam of Ihsan is the station of Ihsan, is to worship Allah as if you see him. That is the station of intimacy. There you are in complete infatuation, ishq, love, in the ocean of the divine presence. One of the believers once asked Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, that's Prophet Moses, for faith. He said, "O Moses, when you go to your Lord on Mount Sinai, ask your Lord to give me Iman." Why do you think you have no faith? Asked Moses alayhi salam. You believe in me? But the man persisted, saying, "Ask what I am requesting." That man was a believer who had reached a high level, yet he did not feel like he had faith. And praise and fasts will reach paradise, but he also knew that such a one had not necessarily reached the maqam al-ihsan. So the Prophet Moses alayhi salam asked Allah to grant that believer faith. When he came back down the mountain, he found that man staring blankly, his eyes wide open. Allah Ta'ala said, leave him now. Leave him now. Even if you grind him to dust, he will not feel anything. What is faith? According to the hadith of Gabriel alayhi salam, it is to believe in Allah, his angels, his prophets, his books, and in the last day and destiny. It's good and it's bad. If you believe in the last day, in judgment day, how do you have time to work for dunya? Yet people who say they are believers are spending their days looking at the computer, reading the news, and seeing how many people died in this or that war or disaster. Or they are buying and selling stocks, or even worse, playing games on the computer. That is the worst thing. If you have to believe in the hereafter and the heavenly judgment, Yawm al-Akhirah, that means you have to fight your ego and slay it. When you kill your ego, you will be resurrected in the intimacy and tranquility of the station of perfected character, Maqam al-Insan. That is one of the meanings of the last day. In fact, there are three meanings of the last day: the day of resurrection, the day of death, and the day of dying before you die. You cannot see your Lord in this world, in dunya, but you can reach the level of the divine presence. In Akhirah, however, the reward is not only paradise, but also to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very few will achieve this reward, the sight of their Lord in paradise. It is reserved for those in the assembly of truth, Maqad as-Sadiq, who are in the company of the prophets, the trustworthy ones, the martyrs and the salihin. It is for the prophets, Nabiyun, and the veracious saints, Sadiqun. It is for those who kept their covenant and the martyrs who fought and struggled against their egos. Those who sacrificed their very selves in love to God. This is a true martyrdom. True martyrdom. The real kind. It's like, yeah, might be, that may happen if somebody's physically martyred in a war or something, protecting innocent people. But the real martyrdom is when you sacrifice yourself for the sake of Allah. That doesn't even require a war, except within yourself, to overcome your evil that is within you. Everyone has devils within them. And if we can overcome those, that's the true victory. And all of us, we're all in different stages in that. Some people haven't even tried. Some people, their devils are controlling them. And other people, they are, to some degree or another, in a good state of pushing back the devils, taming their devils, overcoming their devils. But every single one of us has this challenge within our life. For those who kept their covenant, so it is for the prophets, Nabiyun, and the veracious saints, Sadiqun, and for those who kept their covenant, and the martyrs who fought and struggled against their egos, those who sacrificed their very selves in love to God. Shaheed fi hubillah. It means those who left this life, dunya, and asked instead for the hereafter, the akhirah. It is for those who, though they are still living, care nothing for their lives. That is what is to be a martyr in Allah's love. That is the greater jihad. For the Prophet ﷺ said, the Prophet came back from one of his campaigns saying, you have come forth in the best way of coming forth. You have come from the smallest jihad to the greater jihad. They said, and what is the greater jihad? He replied, the striving, mujahadat, of Allah's servants against their idle desires. And that is related in Katabi in his Tariq, by Imam Ghazali in his Ihya, and Ali Raki said that Bayhaqi related it on the authority of Jabir. It's an authentic hadith. When you fight against your ego, you reach the level of the divine presence. There you feel surrounded by that presence, for you have achieved the station of intimacy. You become a different person at that time. Then the ark will be open for you. The ark is not important. What is important is what it contains. Even though angels are carrying it, the chest itself is not important. When you reach the level of intimacy, what is inside that chest is what is important. And this also, there's another level of meaning to this. You see, the ark, everybody's looking for the Ark of the Covenant. There's even documentaries on History Channel, in some of them about ancient aliens, other about ancient discovery, ancient civilization, other religious documentaries on various documentary channels, actually. All of them, at some point, they've mentioned about the Ark of the Covenant. You've got Indiana Jones films made about this. You've got religious scholars looking for it. Even the Nazis apparently looked for it in World War II, which is where they got the idea from in Indiana Jones. Everybody's looking for this Ark of the Covenant. And yet, as Mawlana Shaykh Hisham says here, the Ark is not important. What is important is what it contains. And this also is true of us as human beings. It's like a mirror of us. It's not the outward form that is important, but what we contain. What is the contents of our character, as Martin Luther King said? It's the contents of our character that's important. It's our faith that's important. It's our integrity that's important. What is within each of us? And I'm asking this question to myself as well. What's in me? I'm not pointing the finger at others, but I'm asking the question. I'm putting it out there. That's what's important. People are looking outwardly and do these outward actions. But if we're not growing in here, if we're not fighting the devils inside of us, if we're not cleaning ourselves and cleaning our hearts, it's all for nothing. That's what's important. When you reach that level of intimacy, what is inside that chest is what is important. According to the Holy Quran, the Ark of the Covenant contained what was left of what the Prophet Moses, Musa alayhi salam, and Harun, Aaron alayhi salam had. Bakia, what remains. The significance of this is that you cannot inherit from a prophet completely. You are standing at the feet of that prophet. And you are not, and you are only going to receive what he wants you to inherit. So what was left inside of the Ark of the Covenant? The staff of Sayyidina Moses. That stick was inside there. Mawlana Shaykh Hisham doesn't mention it here, but apparently also the original broken tablets of the Torah were contained within the Ark of the Covenant. Because, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he broke them. But let's continue what Shaykh Hisham is saying here about the stick of Sayyidina Moses. The snake that devours untruth. When Moses alayhi salam came to the first meeting with his Lord, in darkness of the windswept Sinai night, manifesting himself in the form of a burning bush, Allah said to Moses, he threw it, and behold, it was a snake moving rapidly. Said he, take hold of it and fear not. This is in Surah Taha, which is Surah 20, Ayah 20 to 21. When Moses alayhi salam threw the staff, it became a slithering snake, and he was afraid. But Allah said, do not be afraid. Take hold of it. The snake is the most terrifying animal. It is poisonous and eats everything. It is deadly. And so too was the staff of Moses alayhi salam, deadly to anyone who came against him. And so it was when Pharaoh's magicians challenged Sayyidina Moses. His staff consumed all of their snakes. Allah says they came with great magic. Sihrun Azim. That means the most powerful of all magics. Yet what happened? Allah Jalala told Moses alayhi salam, throw that stick. When reality comes, all illusions are destroyed. Throw that stick. When reality comes, all illusions are destroyed. Falsehood cannot stand in the face of truth. As Allah tells us many times in the Quran, in fact, all scriptures tell us. Bismillah. And not only scriptures, even science teaches us that. It is the same with us. All of our lives are illusions. Physics proves that what we perceive is not reality. For example, we may see a star sparkling in the sky, but that star may have been extinguished eons ago. Yet the light that it emitted millions of years ago is only now reaching us. It is an illusion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing his greatness to these physicists. He is showing them that what they think is something is really nothing. He has revealed to them that this entire universe is emptiness. That is why some systems of belief, such as Hinduism and Buddhism, urge the seeker to strive for complete emptiness. The universe may be a void, but Allah Jalala put whatever you need in that void. For Allah, that is not a problem. He put the nothing into something and the something into nothing. That is why we see, that is why what we see is illusion. So too with those serpents. that were conjured up by Pharaoh's magicians. They were illusions, but powerful ones. Everyone was overwhelmed by that magic and thought Moses was finished. Even Moses was afraid. But Allah Jalala told him not to fear. That's why Allah prepared him when he spoke to him through the burning bush. And also through coming through a burning bush to show Moses, there's nothing to fear. I am with you. And look, this is just a small example of my power. And even that you are amazed by. And even Moses was afraid when they threw their serpents. But he told Moses, you are going to overcome them because theirs is the magic of Shaitan. Shaitan's magic is everywhere in the world today. He is tricking us with MTV, music television. What we need is mercy television. We need divine TV. Instead, we are losing ourselves in more illusions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to dispel these illusions. That is why he gave Moses' staff the power to overcome Shaitan's magic. The staff of Moses alayhi salam was sent to destroy illusions and say, truth has now arrived and falsehood has perished. For falsehood, by its nature, is bound to perish. This is in Surah Al-Isra, the night journey, 17:810. Our dunya, this world, is false, it's batil. It is only going to last just a short time. And that doesn't mean it doesn't have some kind of reality while we're here, but it means it's not the ultimate reality. It's a temporary reality. We have to deal with it while we're here, but we shouldn't be the main thing we're ultimately striving for. Our dunya is false, batil. It's only going to last a short time. You're going to live 65, 70, 80, maybe even 100 years at most. But even that short life is a struggle. Reality is higher because it is true and eternal. And the sorcerers came unto Pharaoh and said, verily, we ought to have a great reward if it is we who prevail. Answered Pharaoh, yes, and verily, you shall be among those who are near unto me. They said, O Moses, either you shall throw your staff first, or we shall be the first to throw. He answered, you throw first. And when they threw down their staffs, they cast a spell upon the people's eyes and struck them with awe and produced mighty sorcery. This is in Surah Al-Araf, the heights. Surah 7, Ayah 113 to 119. And then we inspired Moses, throw down your staff, and lo, it swallowed up all of their deceptions. And thus they were vanquished there and then and became utterly humiliated. What happened to Pharaoh's magicians when that reality came through Moses' staff? They fell down prostrate. So they fell on their faces like we do in prayer. But the sorcerers fell down prostrate in adoration. Surah Al-Araf, the heights. Surah 7, Ayah 120. Immediately, as soon as they saw what Moses had done, through the power and blessings of Allah, they fell on their faces. As Mawlana Shaykh Hisham says, they recognized that they were wrong and believed in Allah immediately, because they were the greatest experts in the world at that time in the art of sorcery. They were the greatest experts. There was no magicians better than Pharaoh's magicians. He had the best. Just like today, people might have the very, very best directors in Hollywood or something like this. They are the best. But it's a different magic. If someone comes along and outdoes them, they'll, whoa, what happened? And they recognized that they were wrong and believed in Allah, the Lord of Musa and Harun, peace be upon them. Only the pious and sincere will surrender to their Lord. Thus the magicians followed Moses and the rest went away. So the magicians were actually saved. Even though they came against Moses, because when they came against Moses, they were in a state of jahiliyyah, just like the people in the time of the Prophet Muhammad. But then they realized that Moses was everything that he told them he was. And he was really guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and empowered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so they fell on their faces immediately. They acknowledged that Moses was a prophet and Allah was true. Immediately. And so the Pharaoh's magicians were actually saved. When haqq comes, when the truth comes, it destroys all batil, all falsehood. Haqq is coming soon, and it will take everything that is wrong from this world. The staff of Moses is asa dhikr'Allah, the staff of God's remembrance. It is a snake that opens its mouth and consumes all the illusions and tricks of the pharaonic self. The sifat al-faruni, and that is La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, that there is no God except God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. And that is given to Ummat and Nabi, to the nation of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. See how much mercy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed on this ummah. He also has for you the ark. He will open it for you, his secrets, when you enter into the divine presence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you all these treasures if you throw away the bad characteristics of your pharaonic self. And your heart will begin to shake, wanting more and more and more. When that love comes into your heart, you cannot contain it. It will explode and jump to the next level of intimacy. So do not be left out of the divine presence, or you will be crying after that intimacy, peace, and tranquility. Ya Allah, we pray He grants Mawlana Shaykh Hisham good health and long life, so that we may continue to benefit from Mawlana Shaykh Hisham, also Mawlana Shaykh Muhammad Adil, and Shaykh al-Islam, Dr. Tariq al-Qadri, and all of our good sheikhs in this time. This is the book I was reading again, 50 Days, The Divine Disclosures During a Holy Sufi Seclusion, published in 2010. I hope you benefited from that and enjoyed that. I wish you all a wonderful evening if you're in the UK, and wherever you are in the world, then assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of God be with you all. I look forward to seeing you on Monday for my sohbet and Sufi meditation, and I'll be back again inshallah next Friday for Friday reflections. So until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.